What's going on, everybody? Preacher Reads here, and it's time to talk about how my November went. Now, my November was one for the ages. We were looking forward to some huge releases. Did it hold up? And was I disappointed? Let's talk about it. All right, so let's dive right into what I read in November, starting with the first one, catching up in time for the Shadows Upon Time release and the gala. I had to finish Disquiet Gods. This was the first thing I finished in the month of November, and you guys know that I thought that this was brilliant. It took everything that I've loved about the Suneater saga, ramped it up to 10. I mean, chapters 37 through 40, absolute brilliant work. And I don't want to gush about this too much more, but this is my favorite book in the series so far because I'm not done with Shadows Upon Time. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But wow, Disquiet Gods was brilliant. I thought it had the best pacing of any of the books in the series so far. And again, it took the themes and the concepts that I loved the most from the series and really ramped them up and made them in the forefront of the story. And man, this just continued on into the next book as well. But Disquiet Gods was a 5 out of 5 for me. Absolute perfect novel. The people who don't believe that this is the best book in the Suneater series, I just don't really get it. And that's okay. We can have a difference of opinion. I know that's one of the best parts about the series is that some people love basically every book in the series the most. You can find someone who thinks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now 7 are the best books in the series. And that's a perfect indication of just how good Suneater is. But Disquiet Gods was brilliant for me. Next up came my surprise of the month and the book that I want to gush about the most, and that is Ironbound by Andrew Givler. Now, this is an absolute brilliant piece of epic fantasy and progression fantasy. Now, I'm a little scared off by the idea of progression fantasy usually, by the idea of lit RPG usually, just because I've read a few that were so gamified that it really just took me out of the fantasy portion of the novel. I want it to feel like a real epic fantasy, not like a game, unless it's something like Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I think leans into it so hard that it works, but you have to build that world out right as well. And so did Andrew Givler build something here in Ironbound that I thought was worth it 100%. This is probably my second favorite book of the year so far. I gave this a 5 out of 5. What was great about it? The characters were awesome. They felt unique. They didn't feel like kind of stock sacks for the progression or for the fantasy world or for the magic system. I loved the character work in this. If I had to give you a vibe of it, I want you guys to think about some of the best parts of Kaladin and Bridge 4. There's a lot of that feeling in there, a lot of that found family and friendship and overcoming adversity together. It is really, really good, and the world is very unique. The magic system is a little bit on the harder side, and it is done really well, very uniquely, and you progressively find out about it through the progression system of this story, but it is baked into the world so well that it doesn't feel mathy. It doesn't feel gamified. It feels like it's built for an epic fantasy, and he knocks it out of the park. The action sequences are written great. The pacing is top tier as well. Book 2 comes out in May, I believe, of next year, and I'm so excited to dive into it because Ironbound was an absolute gem that you need to read. And then we came to the first release of the 3 big November releases, and that is Empire of the Dawn. Now, how did I feel about Empire of the Dawn? I want to start this by saying this. I haven't talked about this much on the channel, didn't post much about it after I read it, because personally, I don't know if I can recommend this novel given the content. Now, was it well done? 100%. Jay Kristoff accomplishes everything that he's seeking to accomplish. He's a brilliant author. The prose is beautiful. The story is action-packed. The characters are super well done. Everything that makes something a good novel in those senses is perfect here. I don't know if I could tell you whether book 1, 2, or 3 was the best because they're all just so consistently good. But there's just too much spice in these 3 novels for me to say that I could recommend it on this channel, for me to tell you to go out and read it. If that's your thing, you probably have already read it. And so I'm just going to say here that it was a little bit too much for me in this 3rd book. I skipped probably 2 scenes, probably 10 pages each. They were just too much. I just had to move on from them. The other stuff in the series, the language and things like that, are a little strong too. The interplay with religion and doubt, I thought, was well done in this series. Some people think it's a little heavy-handed, But just for me, my conscience, and what I would assume the average reader who's not into spiciness would expect, this series probably isn't for you. It's a little overdone. It's a little extra. And I think that was on purpose. And so it's just necessarily maybe not for me. And I skipped through them because I really wanted to see what happened in the end of the books. But if this is not a series that you're dying to read, I would not jump it up your list, especially if you're not into spice. A little note about the ending as well. Jay Kristoff took a bold approach to the ending, and kudos to him. Hats off to you. I didn't think he did it exactly like I would have wanted him to, but the decisions that he made put him in a different realm in terms of boldness when it comes to ending a popular series. And I got to give him his due for that, man. Congratulations. You shocked the crap out of me. And I think that the people who love this book are going to love it, one, just because of the consistency, and two, because the ending really did just swing for the fences. And I thought for the most part, did a really good job of finishing up a series that was known for its boldness, was known for its character work, and was known for its action-packed sequences. And I think that Jay really landed the plane. And then with that, we have to talk about the second release that I was looking forward to, and that is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. Now, I want to say here, I give this a 3 out of 5 stars, and in my review, some people said, man, I can't believe the book wasn't good. I still thought this book was good. It just suffers, in my opinion, from big-time middle book syndrome. Now, there's some big decisions made in this book that would spoil the first one, so I'm not going to go into those. If you've read the first one or the second one, you know what I'm talking about. And I thought that they did something interesting by making those decisions. I thought that the world building improved from book one, got more unique. I thought James got a little bit more bold with his choices and how he was expanding things. And I thought that really, it almost made the series feel more like a classic sci-fi, in the sense that the idea and the world became at the forefront. And that was cool. But I thought it was to the detriment a little bit of characters, especially side characters. And you're in a situation in this book where you're not spending a lot of time with any specific side characters, because you're spending a lot of time in a lot of different places. And so I thought that those world-making decisions really kind of were to the detriment of some of the character work. And we see that a lot in hard science fiction. I thought he leaned into that. Not that this is hard science fiction, it's still fantasy, but those decisions felt science fiction-esque. And in doing so, I thought we spent less time building characters, focusing on characters, and definitely focusing on relationships. I also thought the ending was extremely rushed. I liked the choices of the ending, but I felt like James needed 200 more pages at minimum, and that maybe he just didn't do that because he needed to keep it to a word count. It's just the way that I felt, the way that kind of the pacing went about in terms of how the ending or endings really kind of came together. I thought that they were rushed. Again, loved the decisions. And I'm in this weird place with this book where I thought it was disappointing, for sure. I was expecting a 5 stars, and I got a 3.5. Right, where I thought it was disappointing, I'm actually more excited for the rest of the story because of where he ended, because of the choices that he made. I'm excited to see where this is going. I mean, I think he made some huge decisions in terms of plot that are going to drive me to be more interested in book 3. I just think that when we look back on this and the series is done, that everyone's going to say, okay, book 2 was a middle book syndrome book. It needed to build some things, it needed to expand some things, and that may have been to the detriment of the pacing and of some of the character work. But man, some choices were made that have me excited for the next book. And so 3 out of 5 stars for me. Definitely disappointed. I expected a 5-star banger. I loved The Will of the Many. And so a little disappointed, but excited for the rest of the series. And I think that that's a pretty common feeling about this book. Would I still read it? Yes. If you have any interest in The Will of the Many, if you have any interest in the Hierarchy series as a whole, get after this book quickly. You're still going to enjoy it. I still enjoyed it. Was just disappointed because I expected it to be my favorite book of the year. Moving out of the book space and into the comic space, I started Invincible Volume 1. Not going to say much about this just because it's just the first volume, but this was brilliant. Ran out, grabbed the second volume immediately. Thought it was such an intriguing story. Loved the art, and I've heard the art gets even better after like the third volume. A different artist comes on. So I'm very excited to continue in this series. Going to definitely be reading through these. One of my first comics that I've ever read. Definitely still a noob when it comes to comics and manga. So excited to continue with it. But definitely was intrigued by the first one. Definitely felt like it hooked me, especially with that ending. So that was all that I was able to get to in November, some chunkers for sure. You know that I'm currently reading a few books like Shadows Upon Time, which has been brilliant so far. But I'm gonna have another video coming out about my December reads where I talk about finishing up the 3 books that I am currently reading, Shadows Upon Time being one of them. The last thing I will say is my November was capped off by the gala, which was so awesome. Meeting so many of you guys in person, so many of the Bookstreet Boys family in person, and getting to see Christopher just gush about this series, getting to meet guys like Mike and John and Jacob and Amy from Talking Story. And again, just so many of the awesome book community that I have made friends with. It was great. I hope you guys had a great time as well. If you were there, I hope you guys enjoyed spending some time with Preacher Reads. Man, I really enjoyed spending time with you guys. And I would say, man, if you have an opportunity to do something like that in the future, do it, because the bookish community comes through. We had such a good time. Felt like a bunch of friends who'd just been friends forever. It didn't feel like the first time I met any of those people, and it was such a great time. And it was just so cool to see Christopher gush about Suneater and gush about his next series and just see the man behind this series that I've loved so much. All right, guys, be on the lookout next week early for a video about what I'm reading in December. If you're not in the Bookstreet Boys community down on Discord, hop into that. You can find the link in the description. If you guys are interested, we are reading Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill as our book of the month in the Discord community next month. I hope you guys have had a great reading November. Let me know down in the comments what you read this month and what you liked the most. I'll see you guys later.